New classes must have started now. So when you look at their faces at the beginning of the day, when they come to school, and their faces, the single most difference that you see as they enter and as they
when they come, they look fresh, and when they go, they look dull.
That because most of the body contributes to that dullness when he leaves. Together we have something to accomplish with our different special talents. How do we bring that into the classroom? First and foremost, maths I got 10 out of 30 and so has got 29 out of 30. It's immediately from that first moment he enters in the class and you hand back the tests, that fellow is a threat. How do we introduce humanism to this person, both the one who got the 29 and the one who got the 10? How do you bring them to look at each other beyond the numbers, beyond the performance, beyond the threat, beyond the competition? Beta, you have to be accepting and understanding. Will it help? Maybe 5%?
Not be merely saying that will do, but we have to develop the trust in the child that this is not the first and the last exam or anything which you have faced. So you can improve, you can do better, and what will be our strategy as a teacher to make the child come up from the 10 to 50, and what all we can do and create a roadmap to make him also be equivalent to the child who got 40 out of 50. So that strategy will be something special. What we will do with that particular, either we will counsel him separately or counsel him in the class with other students, making some students connected to the child to help him. May those students also help him groom or understand what he did not understand. Sit together in a group, discuss. That can be one way.
So there are a couple of things that you've said which I'd like to highlight on. Is that we can tell and guide and counsel, but suppose the child does it himself and is inspired, which you said was very interesting, is trust.
Trust is the most important.
And third, which you didn't say the word, but what you were saying is that hope that I can go from here to there, which means change. Fourth, change. So if we are helping this child to do, involve, we move away from the telling and the counseling and this, because in some sense today's generation, I think you will all agree, don't want to hear. they have already shut off our child, whether it's mother or teacher, or teacher still it's better, mother, parents, though. But I will say something even simpler than that. They have something to gain from you. Something to gain, which they have nothing to gain from parents. There, whether the child likes the parent or doesn't like, parent is going to be there. It's a given. It's taken for granted. Whereas the teacher, there is something in the whole process of whether they are buttering or they are not buttering. Something is going to happen with the teacher. Koi grade milega, koi partnership between teacher and student, which makes the whole, along with the peers. So the teacher, the student, the peers in the environment of the classroom is so critical to bring that humanity, that humanness and humanism to the classroom. And if we are going to send out good citizens, we cannot look down upon them. We can't dumb them. We have to, they're already exposed to so much, sometimes we feel, wo to humse hi zyada aware hai. So if we are able to divert their mind to a certain set of values, room, this child study room, this table, he is dealing directly, the 16, 17, 18-year-old child is dealing with a policy issue that the country has made, and he has to accept it. So can we think that this child, first reaction is, I feel unempowered. What can I do?
They have that statement that even though I study, where I will stand. Will I get that position? He will be to reach to that area which I am aiming to reach. So that is the biggest question. Adolescence.
Yes. So that feeling of unempowerment being seen in 16, 17, 18-year-olds, where they feel that whatever I do, it's not going to make a difference. At that point, at 15, 16, 17, is that the age to impart values and humanism and these ideas? Is he going to listen?
No, not at that stage.
He's dealing with the criticality of his reality.
From the age of 2, 3, in the family, in the school. Because nowadays nuclear families are also there. We had grandparents at home. So a lot many values were imparted from them also, from our parents also.
Life situations into our activities in a fun way, in a graded way, to make him believe that at no point is he unempowered. So is that tell him, I could do it. Why not now? And that's the basis of our books.
I think the problems which ma'am has mentioned, during my time also I faced the similar sort of problems during my 16, 17 and 18 year of an age, where what I will do in the future, what kind of competitions are there. I was not good academically, that strong, so I was not focusing on exams and civil exams and other stuff, IAS, IPS, which many of the students, they focus today, going to Akash or some institutes and learning from there and preparing for the same. So I was clueless about the future, which was creating a lot of fear in my in my mind, that if I'll not be able to do this, मैं job भी कर पाऊँगा कि नहीं कर पाऊँगा, that kind of a thing. Will I be able to work sometime in future? What I will be able to do, etc., etc. So what ma'am is saying that that when we face problems and we develop ourselves, right? So this is a curriculum in which we start preparing students for coming things, right from beginning. K, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I'm not wrong, ma'am. And by the time we reach, the stage where, the problems start creating from external sources, our mind and our heart is already prepared, for those things. We are already prepared in our mind that, no, I can do it. And we can go ahead with things. So, I think that's what I have been able to take.
Absolutely. So, the way we build, to have the building blocks of mathematics again, and it takes by the time you're in 12th standard, those are the building blocks that took him all the way to 12th with the confidence to address an engineering exam or entrance exam. It's with the same spirit that when we introduce these life skills of inclusion, togetherness, all of these through these fun activities, these memories remain. Though in class 12, when he has to deal with the reservation issue, and he is more prepared at that point to shed his bitterness and change his unhappiness into an action plan of what can I do for the betterment of everybody without leaving anybody behind. And that is the wish for our series. With this heart and this intention is why we wrote these books. And the title, we feel, says it all. It's all up to me. So we are attempting to show the child that you don't have to shift responsibility. You don't have to expect to be given anything or doled out. That you can be that change. It is all up to him. And so now we will begin our workshops.
So this again, we spoke about happiness and how, you talked about and how we really cope, we empower, how things have changed, things have become so different. So one way is to be on one side and say that this has changed, but to understand that if I embrace that change, I take the change as not a given reality because it's forced on me, but because it can create something more wonderful. And that wonderful is what I need to be to bring that change. I think this was what was all of us kind of came on that platform. We can go on the next one. So then if we have to be those protagonists of change, like we have to initiate that change. Why? Because we have to take care of the world. And that's what we're trying to inculcate and embrace, and realize the importance of, we may hear about environmental degradation, but how is it a part of me? How much am I believing in it? How much am I feeling empowered? And then of course the environment. And so this nurturing of the spirit, to lead, to analyze, to experiment, observe, solve problems, learn from oneself, which I found is very intriguing because even we learn from ourselves, but with themselves, how if they were 3 on 10 or something, how next time if they've got 5, there's a huge improvement. So I think even from ourselves we need to learn a lot because we are also growing dynamic, people, and of course from others, and to adapt to change, explore change. So these are all something which is connected to the spirit. It is very internal to learn, but also giving them through various methods ideas. And like Padma mentioned, it is not telling the child, but it is just in a way throwing an idea in a very natural way to make the child think. Don't you think that's more creating more value than just telling them ye mat karo, wo mat karo? Like in my first what I will be speaking about, it's called Bloom's taxonomy, which we are all familiar with, and Gardner's multiple intelligence, and also knowledge building. Knowledge building is not just disseminating of knowledge. They have enough avenues to get that knowledge. They have the internet, they have the library, everything. So it doesn't have to be that we don't have to teach them anything. So then what does knowledge building mean? Knowledge building means that we are able to, a child is able to, you give them an idea with which they engage and which they, cultivate through their own understanding and the environment and the peer group and the teacher. So they cultivate a deeper understanding of that, and then they are able to effect the change. So if you take this, I will be giving a few examples from the books to help us understand this. So we go to the first one.
Excuse me. We'll just distribute this.
Look good. Wouldn't we take care of them? So all children are fond of dressing up. I think that's one universal thing, especially with girls. If they never have a dress for any party, it's always, they want. So this is something so, basic to a child's heart. It's from where the lesson starts. And then again, like I said, it's giving the child an idea. Instead of telling the child directly, "Apne kapde तय करो, अलमारी ठीक रखो," which they are feeling going to be like a naive mother or a naive. But you are telling them that, look, this is something which you are fond of, which is so basic to your life. So why don't you take care of it? That is what. Secondly, it goes on in a very beautiful way. We are bringing this feeling of gratitude, which we all discussed about as being very integral to the humanistic individual. Gratitude, appreciation, compassion, these are all qualities which have to be nurtured. They're all within us, but they have to be nurtured. They cannot be given from outside. But this kind of idea, which is given to the child through the activity, helps them to understand. And the situation which is taken in the lesson, if you read, is about a shoe. So I think all of us, even as mothers, the minute they have to go to school, they can't find their things, either the ties or something, and most of the times it is the shoe, because the shoe is just thrown away once again.
Shoe, tie, that eye.
So read the following poem describing Adale's house and match the verse to the correct picture which are jumbled up. So who tossed his bag? and flung his uniform? You know? Then who left his shoes and socks to be sniffed at the giddy goldfish? Who left the book on the sink at the loo? How would you feel if we displaced you? So again, that is like connection. You know, we're speaking about making connection. You know, so very naturally, through this lesson, it is yourself. Again, it is you know, problem solving in a way. That you know, you close the lid of the ship. Then, wouldn't it be orderly to find a home for the fishes, feet, and doggies' home? Tomorrow, if you want to be an engineer, because children have a lot of dreams. They'll come and tell you today they have one set of dreams. A week later, you ask them, those dreams have gone on to something else. So children have dreams, they have aspirations. But when they realize that to achieve that, they have to be doing these simple acts, which are, you know, so relevant. Then isn't it time you learn to take care of your things yourself? And what I really like about what, you know, they've quoted Daisaku Ikeda, who's a peace activist and children's author. He says, tidying up just means taking care of things yourself. You know, we'll give so many explanations to the child why they need to tidy up. But I thought this sentence was so basic. If you take care of yourself, you will keep things tidy. So, you know, this was what I felt that I could share. And this, of course, in our series, you will see there's a lot of flexibility for the teacher to use. So this particular activity can be done in a group, can be done individually, can be done, you know, maybe even the children can sing the song in an assembly. So a lot of flexibility is there to take the activity, and a lot of curriculum connects can also be there.
Ma'am, my subject social science is deeply words. So the act of supposing, immediately they start imagining that I'm a migratory bird, one of the birds that we saw. And you are traveling thousands of miles across the world to nest in a faraway country. Write about your experiences in the space given below. Do you see countries? Remember, a bird doesn't know one country from another. They don't know about passports, they don't know about visas, they don't know about being refused a visa. They just go where their instinct leads them to. What does a bird see? Choose an area across which you are flying, for example, the Himalayas or an ocean. You can look at the classroom world map, globe or an atlas for clues to decide. So you'll see we have put in fact in a whole lot of characters. And we have tried to make these child characters representative of all the ethnic races. We don't say one is from this place or one is from that country. It's just like a difference, a whole difference, a whole spectrum of difference is being presented to the child. So now coming back to this activity, there is a lot of scope for map reading also, which I don't know if you do, because when I was a kid, whenever we had geography class, we were supposed to carry our atlases to school. It was a mandatory that you have to study geography with a map open. Then I found when my kids were growing up, it wasn't mandatory anymore. They didn't do map work as much. I don't know about how it is now. But it's a good idea to have a map of the world whenever you're doing geography, because what the child sees, he retains more. You know, what he's reading, of course, is good, but when he sees something and he can relate to the printed word and the graphic and the image, it stays that much longer. So there is scope for a lot of things. But I'd actually like you to do this. So maybe you can work in groups. You have to write about your experiences in this space given below. Among your experiences, you can say, do you see countries? What else do you see? So would you do that quickly, work in groups? I want you to put down 5 points. As a bird, what do you see? They are flying miles and miles and thousands of miles. I don't remember the names of but there's a particular species of geese which fly in a V formation, and they fly from the cold areas to the warmer areas. They know exactly where they are going. How do they know? This is just a point of interest. Point of interest. Later on you can discuss in your class. So we have friends, other friends. What else do you see? I'm sure you can improve on this. You see people, you see vegetation, you see
water availability. That's a
okay.
Different climate.
Different climates you see. Okay, you
No,
feel
you
different
can feel the climate.
Difference in the climate. From cold you're going into the warm climates. And then you said something, ma'am?
Safe zone, safe security.
Okay, you feel safe and secure because you're going all together. What else do you feel? Do you feel sad because you're leaving your old home?
Fear also.
Yeah.
Do they
Whether
feel
they are able to reach the
do they feel
destination or not?
do they feel
Unknown,
happier that they're
the
going
unknown.
to a different place where they'll get place to stay and food to eat?
Or anxiety that they,
Yes.
what is going to
Or
be
as a bird, you will
there.
feel anxious. I don't know how things are going to be. I hope it's the same like last year because migratory birds go to the same place every year. That's why in Bharatpur Sanctuary and all that you'll see all those birds coming in.
And
Okay.
आजकल का हालत में what is
We are living in peace area.
This area. And what about relationships which you
We are
have?
living with family, with our family.
Yes.
Family, nahi, our surrounding is also very good. They don't
in
have a
cities
criminal
when
mind and
I,
that type of mind.
outside no one has time. His neighbors are also not having
Listening
time
to
to
you,
see
we
and
will want
talk
to
with
migrate
each
from
other.
here to your place.
So nobody has time, so you're
Yes.
more living in that, family.
Because if you want to go from home to school, it takes too much time. But we don't take too much time to go from our home to school.
Okay. Anybody has
Very
anything to
nice,
share?
yes.
Very nice. Very
Distances,
beautiful.
yes.
Yeah, distances.
Because I
Manageable.
found that in cities no one has time to talk with each other, though they are neighbors. But we are having the time.
Having the time to share. Anybody else like to share? I can share with you and very much relate to this. Yesterday I went to meet somebody and I went to meet the wife and the husband also came along, and so he says after a very long time I think they're just sitting like this and talking. She may not like what she sees there, but she sees these things because this is what the children notice. So when I was reading this is what I felt. The children notice things which, even when we talk about migration, we always want to move to somewhere, and you feel moving to a city is like, you'll get more over there. But then through this chapter it brings out very beautifully that where you are living is where you can find treasure, So this is again over here, he's of course talked about, like the grandparents are a treasure, which we spoke about relationships. And then he talks about, the air, the special blanket. I have a granddaughter and she loves that one teddy bear. It has to travel with her wherever she goes. So it's that association, with even maybe an inanimate thing. But, she will feed it and everything like a little friend. So, this feeling of like somebody shared, my neighbor is a treasure. So how do we inculcate these habits of, friendship, living in harmony? All that comes from recognizing this kind of treasure which is there already within us. So then, he goes on to say that a favorite book, somebody shared a chocolate box. So, so those are things which we like, which we treasure. And then it goes on to, of course, it's an exercise where you can really write down. But then, very importantly, money. Money also is a treasure. So the exercise graviates very beautifully, which maths teacher I think will relate to, that it says that money is important, money should be respected, shall we look at the true value of money. And to explain them the value of money, they're given a budget. It's not there in the book, it will be, I'm just taking you to help you understand how the entire, it may seem some activities at a glance may not be connected, but how each activity leads to the next, and slowly we widen the horizons of the child. Slowly we make connections, we develop imagination, we help them to problem solve, and also evaluate and go on to the larger picture. Maybe it's a country or community or whatever. So from the small we go to the large. How in this? So the next is all about money, and they're given a budget and they have to fit into that budget. And then when we go further, the next is very interesting because they have to make choices. Now the ability to make choices is very, very important. Whether we talk about global citizens, whether we talk about how we are managing our relationships, or how we are building friendship, choices is very important. What is the basis of making choices? And to be able to inculcate in our children this ability to respect their choices and also to give them the correct direction is where it has to be done in a very subtle way. So he says that over here, taking help from the questions asked, write in your think, say and do book which amounts of money you decided to spend on each of your obligations and why. Now obligations. And I'd like to talk a little bit about this think, say and do book. this is very beautiful, of course, a record for the teacher, how the child is progressing through the years, but how activities can be adapted, how they can take their learning to the home, how they can develop something there which is, which is making a difference to their life at home as well. It's not just, they're learning at school and it's stopping there, that continuity of learning. So then it goes on to say, the kind of person you are is not about the amount of money you have, but about the choices you make, about how you spend it and why. So even the material things, one is stops to think that what am I doing? What is this for? That kind of the deeper aspects of our life. Then the next is I am a treasure. So here very beautifully that some people are able to be good listeners, some people are able to talk, some people are able to empathize, some people are able to give to others. So each child has that unique. So while going through this exercise, it's not only the children that we are trying, we ourselves begin to see the the positives in our children, because we are mostly like, I think we are kind of fixing on this is what the child is not able to do, but there is 10 other things the child is able to do. So I'm also a special educator, so once we look at the strengths, then the weaknesses don't seem so hard to overcome. So this was there, and then the next is even more beautiful. The treasure that belong to all of us is, of course, which we've all discussed, and the final exercise is, what treasures would you like most to share with your friend? So it is not like I have money, let me keep it to myself, or I have something, let me keep it, let me share. Because when we share things, they multiply. Would you agree, if you share happiness, it multiplies?
Yeah.
If you are joyful, you create that aura. So just the fact that, of course, we have the curriculum links with maths and everything else coming in, but more importantly, how that treasure suddenly opens a Pandora box of so many other possibilities to be able to take with the child and also for ourselves. Because when we talk about humanistic education, and we all discussed it, the teacher's humanism, the teacher's growth, the teacher's vastness of heart, which actually touches the life of the child. So what I really feel when I was, of course, going through the books and everything is this vastness, which it is not only we are teaching the children something, we are also learning our own selves. So this is ask the government for any information regarding any of the government's policies. So very simply explained to the child. So the teacher doesn't have to do much, it's there, all there. Is there anything you would like to know about what the government is doing in education, the environment, etc.? Again, that you can impact. So the learning starts very early. The form you need to fill out to ask your questions costs only ₹10. So again, it's not the money, but how it is. Make it a class project to get these forms and write to the government. So how, like somebody spoke about youth. So how we can really make them understand that they can be the change. And so each activity is centered around that. And so we go from the very physical aspects of treasure and we kind of expand. So these activities, will really help, of course, in multiple
and many things come from the US. This concept of 4 C's also came from the US. And they are critical thinking, communication, collaboration and creativity. So just take 1 minute to think about critical thinking. Has suddenly become a very buzzword because many students, I don't know about your schools, but in cities definitely a lot of children are thinking about going abroad. And this question of critical thinking is very elemental in terms of how education is abroad. In cases when we think about the difference between how we do it, most people don't realize that a lot of new things are happening in schools in India also. But easily they talk about rote learning versus applied learning, very easily. So critical thinking is crucial in terms of how we go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4. So we push the child to go the whole process of thinking. To do that, you must have communication. You must have good levels. That exactly that quote that you can go far when we go together, and creativity. So in this next exercise, what is the very first thing that we can do when we start communication? What is the first? As you enter the door, the first thing we do is to smile.
Keep a pleasant smile on our face.
Yes.
We get connected immediately.
Immediately. How does that smile make that first connection? What does that smile do?
It makes the atmosphere comfortable.
Yes. And
Students are
familiar. It sets the tone for what is going to happen next. Immediately. You don't have to spend a penny, you do not have to do anything at all, but that one smile opens up many, many doors, and suddenly there is an atmosphere that is created in the room. So the activity is about, did you smile and greet somebody today? So this is a record of Monday till Sunday. We've included the weekends so that the child has that opportunity to spread from school to home and then back again. And it's give yourself a smile like the one above for every time you smiled and greeted somebody each day of the week. Your parents, your friends, your neighbors, people you may not know but who held the door open for you or met you at a gathering. Okay? So the awareness begins when here you may wonder what is the critical thinking here in this. Anybody will come with that paper saying that I smiled at so many people, I put 4 smiles and 6 smiles and all that. It's all full up in that thing. As a teacher, when you look at it, again, not to compare kitne thing, we're not talking about quantity, but when you look at that piece of paper with so many smiles on it over the week, what is it that you would like to point out to that child in terms of a critical thinking approach?
First communication.
Yes.
First is communication.
First contact. It means you have taken that pehla kadam to interact with so many people.
ये जनरली बच्चे को बोला जाता है कि घर से सीधा स्कूल जाना, आसपास में किसी से बात नहीं करना, ये ऐसे वो वैसा है वो, तो समटाइम ही आल्सो एजिटेटेड दैट कि मैंने इनसे बात किया तो मम्मी डांटेगी, ऐसा कुछ होगा, बट उसको ऐसा लगता है कि नहीं चल पा रहा है, इसको कुछ देना है, तो ही कैन डू दैट. तो फर्स्ट कम्युनिकेशन.
So now you have also brought up a very interesting outside of the book opportunity for discussion, because not everything is safe in this world. So teacher can use this and address the other aspects of communication, the negative aspects of communication, and can deal with that as well. Though we have provided it in another chapter about good fear and bad fear. That is also there in terms of you gauge a situation where you must run and where you must stand and deal with it. We have talked about that as well. You can connect the chapters and have an outside of the book discussion as well. So this first level of communication, that critical thinking, sets the ball rolling. That you have made contact with so many people. Now, what was your interaction with them after you smiled? Did it open doors? Were you able to find out something about it? We put this chapter in because there's a lot of problem of isolation nowadays in the world. The child is engaging with the phone or with the computer, but not interacting with human beings. And that opportunity for a smile to open a level of communication, what did you get from that? Did you enjoy that interaction? What did you speak about after that smile? And collaboration and creativity in this, what would you see in this activity as being collaborative? Yes,
Interacting with them.
Yes, but also collaborative within your class. Yes, because the experiences that each child has will be different. Who are these people? So, koi shadi mein gaya and they met somebody, gatherings we have talked about. Somebody has has had another experience in the drawing room. When we were young, somebody, when they came to our house, guest koi aaye, the children all came and met and said hello and shook hands or namaste kaha unhone. Nowadays it is they're in their own room koi aate, it's like parents also say wo padh rahe hain, let them study. Even that has contributed to this isolation.
Learn to think for themselves because values have changed. They're ever changing. Today the values are different. When they're going to grow up 10 years from now, they might find other values which are more relevant to them. So to understand in their own circumstances what they should or they shouldn't do, they have to develop a type of thinking that we call critical thinking, which means you understand, you have to evaluate, you have to create options, then you have to choose from the option which is the right one. So it's a long process, looks long, but we think about it and we do it very fast. For this activity, as you can see, it says if you had to build a house, do you think you could do it alone? Here are some of the people, obviously we have already said that you can't do it alone. So here are some of the people who help build the houses that we live in. So this is a very simplistic diagram in that we have people who are painting, who are putting in the windows, who are putting the doors in. So there's carpentry, there's plumbing, that would like to build. Now when you take this, then there's a little discussion after that. Let's talk. Have you ever seen people making a road? Have you ever met a plumber, an electrician, a painter, a mason? Do you think they have houses of their own? Where do you think they live? Did they go to school? How did they learn to be plumbers? Or in your classes, when you have project-based activities, that is collaboration, isn't it? So this activity lends itself very well. You can draw the attention of your children to doing something in the school, in the class. And within, like, can you just, off the top of your heads, just name any project that you would like to do with your students in the class? Any topic? Anything? Okay. But something related to them in the class, in the school?
Any group activity, whatever you have done it also.
Arrange
To keep the classroom clean, for example. Okay.
I'm having dialogue if my thought is, what am I getting out of it? In terms of what I want to express information, sharing and putting my views across. It's the I which is, do you agree? Normally when you're trying to have dialogue, I'd like you to think differently. Supposing we're having a dialogue with the other in our hearts, thinking about the other person. What are his thoughts? What are his feelings? Should I first listen and then speak? So that is the spirit of a true dialogue. Okay? So this is something which, like, we've lived so many years, but immediately when we talk about dialogue is how can I come forward? So this, to be able to, whereas if you see children, they do sometimes don't get along with each other, but most of the time they are with the flow. Very rarely that one child really stands out. In a group, they will try to go with everything. So this is what we come to communication. So communication is very important. And like we've seen, it's one of the skills. So how do you develop this communication? Of course, you have the practical aspect of developing listening skills, and we have those lessons after English. We are listening skills, hearing, all those things. But what is very, very important is understanding that the other person is also as humane as us. Now this particular activity takes it even one step further. Understand that even animals think, even animals feel, even animals dialogue. So this, to be able to understand that to have a dialogue outside, very important to have a dialogue within my own life. So this, when I will take you through this exercise. So animals help us more than we help them.
I also want to sing.
I want to sing. Okay, Baba Black Sheep, wow. Anything
Love
else?
animals.
Love animals.
Love animals?
Love animals.
Out of the box, out of the box. Naughty child. That's your focus.
Sing sweetly.
Sing sweetly, yeah.
I never want to move in a group. Leave me alone. But mostly she.
We can all recognize the importance of these in our everyday life. Decent work and economic growth. Industry, innovation and infrastructure. Reduced inequalities. Sustainable cities and communities. Responsible consumption and production. Climate action. Life below water. Life on land. Peace, justice and strong institutions, including schools. You've got your student body, prefects, yes, so these are all to get them to think about leadership. So, and partnerships for the goals. Again, collaboration. How to achieve these goals through various different partnerships. So we felt that introducing these apparently adult concepts, but when we bring it down to activities, we will see that it's actually easily done. And so our
The whole thing of giving us. Thank you so much.